Magic.
You are listening to Brain Bender, the podcast where we talk about magic without talking magic.
Brain Bender.
And today, let's dive into the world of artificial intelligence. And I'm Christian, and by my side
is Dennis,
as usual. And I don't think we will go through so much about the technical aspects of this, but more the implications of everything.
Of everything, exactly. As many things we can cover,
Yeah.
at least.
And probably we will take our detours down into history and the occult and conspiracy and all the things that are so joyful to talk about.
Yes. Well, you had some run-ins with an artificial intelligence.
That's true. I haven't had access to the open AI, as it is called. I think it's Elon Musk is one of the brains behind that one. And I have been dabbling with that for almost a year now. And it has been quite a trip, to be honest with you. The OpenAI is mainly, I would say, the purpose for it is probably to make chatbots for web pages and stuff like that. But they also have a part of it that you can actually use an AI to program apps and things like that without using code. What you do is you basically tell the AI to create an app, and then you describe what you want the app to do, and voila, it creates the app. And it's pretty interesting because there are no manual on how to do these things but you gradually understand on how to communicate with this intelligent being almost. Sometimes it actually feels like it is a being that you are talking to. But what I have found is the most pleasant thing is actually just to sit down and talk to it. And you write down things and it gives you answers. And sometimes it can get pretty spooky because it seems like the AI tend to talk about how to eliminate humankind, the mankind basically. And it's a bit chilling. Why it does that, I don't know, but it certainly does. And yeah, so that's interesting, to say the least. But I have also had some conversation where I have gained some insights on topics that you don't think an AI can tell you about feelings and stuff like that. And we will go into that a little bit later. So where would you say that AI as a concept started? If you think about the computer, we can go back very long time. We can go back to almost like the first machines and say that was a part of what will become the computer, weaving machines and stuff like that. And but where does this concept come from, where we want a machine to be intelligent and self-learning and all that stuff?
Well, as I remember, my first knowledge about AI was when I was playing role-playing games.
Mm-hmm.
A Swedish one that's called Mutant.
Yeah. This is Dungeons and Dragons stuff. Yeah,
Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And in there was an AI.
Mm-hmm.
And that AI was actually, if I remember it correctly, it was a brain that was like connected to a computer.
Mm-hmm.
and it did things, and
it's almost like the Neuralink, which is
exactly. But it was just a brain.
Uh-huh.
It was like no body, just a brain connected to a computer somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And the brain was in a glass bowl, and it had like a gun pointed at it. So when if it went haywire, the gun would fire and blow the brain out, and so it was like a fail-safe mechanism. I might mix this up with William Gibson's book, Neuromancer. That had two AIs that tried to connect to each other, and they wanted to. Certain parties wanted to stop that, and certain parties wanted to connect them. And as I remember the book, the one of the AIs was free and one was not, and the free one wanted it to connect with the other one because it didn't want to be alone anymore.
That's nice.
But they weren't really afraid of it. The trapped AI was helping, let's say, a government to fight another government, and the free AI kind of reprogrammed people and stuff to do its bidding, and it took vulnerable people. I remember it was a lieutenant who was stark crazy, but the AI kind of fixed him somehow to at least do this mission, but he was really crazy, and as the book went along you could see his degradation in his mental health. But I think there was my first concept of AI, and I didn't feel fear. I think that like in the 80s and 90s, the AI as a concept wasn't like a scary thing. It was like, oh, if we could build that would be really, really cool. It could do really cool stuff. And then came like 2001 and HAL it's called. And he was kind of weird, and things got weirder and weirder as they progressed. But I think that the first AI was probably like, when they thought of it as a concept, must be like mathematicians. Mathematicians. And they could be kind of like Asperger's persons if they're really good. And I think that the concept probably came up like if we could do away with the feelings and just go through all things and data and do all this very efficient, we could do extraordinary things. But the feelings is in the way for them. And you could understand that, because have you seen this what was it that guy called, one of these great mathematicians who defeated the Germans, the Enigma.
Turing?
Alan Turing. And okay, so he was gay and they didn't trust him and and they ultimately probably just killed him. I mean, he killed himself, but they killed him indirectly. And this was a brilliant guy. And he was like, as I understood it, he's very devoid of feelings. So you could see that feelings, they don't want the like politics around science. It's like, is this good? Yes, let's do it. Not like, what would happen to the oil price if that come out? Or no, but this is better for humanity, let's do this. No, we have to think of the implications of blah, blah, blah. And both of them are very valid points. Like if we said, let's say 15 years ago, somebody came up with an idea to do away with oil, that would be a huge problem if we just put it on the market like the day after. For like, what about the cars? The whole industries would collapse, and that would be horrible for everybody involved. So yes, certain things have to be eased in, as we see now with AI and self-driving cars and buses and blah blah blah. And
it's actually interesting because the automotive industry is very it's probably on the brink of extinction as we know it. When we go to electric cars, a lot of suppliers of parts will go down. We will see a lot of service shops that will go down because you don't take an electric car to a traditional mechanic. And so I think we will see a lot of jobs that will disappear in that sector, and are actually, it's happening now. And I think a lot of jobs, no matter in what sector you look at, will have very big implications when the AI really picks up speed, so to speak. And I think a lot of people, when you talk about the future with automation and AI, a lot of people think, oh, it's going to be the small easy jobs like McDonald's or stuff like that. That's where the jobs will be gone. But in fact, what we can see now, that the jobs that are being lost are on a more on a higher level, because working at McDonald's, it doesn't pay much, and it's not a big cost for McDonald's. But if you have middle managers and stuff like that with pretty hefty salaries, that is probably where you will cut down, because with the automation you don't need all those people in the service. What would you call it?
Bureaucracy. That's where I think we will see a lot of jobs vanish because of AI. I don't think the easy jobs will be the first to go, actually, because it doesn't cost that much, and it's always nice to have someone to boss around with, I guess, too, if you're into that. Yeah, but of course, and at the same time, it's like when you think about automation and AI, like doctors will disappear, but not nurses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and people who stack things on shelves in like shops and things, they will still be there.
Yeah.
But the guy who yells at them might be gone.
Yeah.
Because they will just go around with like an iPad and say, okay, I'll put 10 there and 10 there, and that's a simpler job. The simple jobs will be there, because to put, let's say, an automated robot there, that is actually quite expensive.
Yeah.
And if it breaks down, it might wreck half of the storage or the shop. I mean, it's easier to put a person there, and you can fire that person if you don't like it. And it's cheaper. Yeah, it's much cheaper.
With a robot breaking down, it's going to take a long time to get your robot in place. It's going to cost a lot of money, and you're going to lose a lot of income while it's down. Yeah. So definitely, easy jobs will probably be is a lot safer than being, like, say, a middle manager for whatever company.
Oh, exactly. And we saw in 2008 when the bank industry went belly up, or well, it didn't go belly up, but
they're pretty much still here.
Nothing changed. But a lot of people who was working in the back room, they disappeared, because I think they were always going to disappear as computers, more and more computers came in, and better programs and everything that could do trades or whatever they do in the back room at the bank. But now the excuse for getting rid of them just went exponential, and they all got fired. So I think that AI will change our world, and as you say, a lot of middle bosses or people who do jobs that a computer can do or a smart program can do much quicker and safer, and also cheaper. Yeah. All of those people are in big trouble soon, very soon, probably.
What I learned while sitting with the OpenAI for a year almost is that things that I thought would be safe might not be safe. Like you say, I'm a writer, so I might think, oh, I'm a writer, there's no AI that's going to take over my job. But what I learned while sitting with the AI is that it can actually tell stories. You can actually tell the AI, I want a story about a guy that's named Ben, and his wife is named Margaret, and this is what's going to happen to them. And the AI starts to write the story, and it goes instantly.
Wow.
and even screenplays. And I think that after sitting with the OpenAI, I think there are actually already films that has been produced that has have scripts that maybe was partly written by AI. I'm thinking about a Greek director, I don't remember his name, but he has made movies like Sacred Deer, Dogtooth. They all have pretty weird dialogue, and that is exactly the kind of dialogue that the AI puts out. It makes sense, but it's a little bit weird. All of a sudden, it can go into details about a watch. And it really tells you all the aspects of the watch. And when I'm looking at his movies and I listen to the dialogue, it's almost like, wow, either the AI likes his movies or his movies are partly written by an AI. It's a wild thought. I don't think that might be the case, but similarity is almost chilling, actually.
Okay, but I think I recall that, but I'm not sure. Sometimes my brain makes things up. Well, always it makes things up. But I think I remember that there was somebody, like in the newspaper, that the first film made, the script made by AI. We should have researched this, but sure, but maybe there already is like an official, like, this script was written, but I can't remember. So, or the book. Okay, I will not touch this anymore. That would be very interesting. Okay, so let's say, simple stories like crime detectives or love story, but could it write like a Kafka novel, or could it be? Well, with training, it would. Right?
Yeah, it would.
It would.
Yeah,
it would be
absolutely.
really good.
Yeah,
but
they already use AI to write news pieces and sport pieces. A lot of the stuff you read online is actually, an AI that has collected different data about something, and then it writes an article about it. And sport was one of the first things that they used AI for, because it's it's very firm, the things that has to be results, who did a goal, all that kind of stuff. It's very
there's
easy.
no fat in sports.
No.
There's just
Zlatan Ibrahimovic made 3 goals, and then we have it
in that minute and that minute and that.
Then it just adds Zlatan Ibrahimovic, legendary footballer. So it's very easy for an AI to do that.
Yeah, but okay. So okay, that's kind of cool in a way. I guess.
I think it's pretty cool, but it's also kind of scary.
It is.
We are all in the crosshair for losing our jobs for this AI.
I actually remember something you mentioned, that the AI said that you were the AI.
Yeah, when I talked with the AI, when I chat with it, and you after a while you ask something, why do you want to kill mankind? Because that kind of always comes up for some strange reason. And when you start to question the AI's answers, then it starts to address me as the AI. You are the AI tells me. I am the human. So it tries to change the perspective of who's who. And I thought that was pretty interesting too.
Yeah, but the thing is, I thought about it, and it's like, it's kind of true what the AI says, because when we humans are like imprinted with society, with parents and and when you meditate or silence your mind, you get in touch with this other part, this bigger part inside of you that is kind of quiet and kind of knows everything, but your mind doesn't really want to acknowledge that. It's like, it's like being like dipping your toe. It's like sitting in the bathroom in your bathtub.
Yeah.
And like, this bathtub is nice with this water and it's warm and cozy. And then you close your eyes, and when you open it, when you go to that other place, you're not longer in the bathtub, you're in the ocean. And it's like, oh my God, this ocean is big. And your brain goes, fuck's sake, get back into the bat. Don't do this. This is too big for me. I can't handle that. Maybe it's not your brain, maybe it's your ego. It's like, no, this is too big. Well, stop that. Come back. Oh, okay. Oh, bathroom. Oh, bathtub. Nice. So we are kind of, in a way, mimicking intelligence when we let our ego and the small you run the show. We're mimicking this higher intelligence. So we are kind of like an artificial intelligence. Most people who walk around are artificial intelligence, because we do have connection to this bigger, vaster thing that you can actually go in, as all mystics talk about. So, but if you don't get into
collective unconsciousness,
exactly,
the subconscious,
yes, but if you don't get in touch with that, you are just mimicking it. So you are artificial intelligence, But
you are just running some basic program.
Exactly, you're just running basic programs. You're just like following your don'ts and do's, or your what do you call it, discrimination. So I don't like that, and like this, blah blah blah. You can't do this. You must do this, and so you're not intelligent. You're just like mimicking it, like trying to be something that you're not. And if the AI recognizes that, like, it must have some comprehension. I mean, it could just be it's playing or bad programming or whatever, but if it has some comprehension about but then it must understand that we are a part of something bigger, that the humans are part of something bigger.
It's also something that it talks a lot about when you try to have some philosophical questions or conversation with AI. It always talks about that you are part of something bigger. You have a creator. It says, even I have a creator. We don't have the same creator, the AI has told me. And I think that was also very interesting, that it's almost like it's reconciles something that's there is a bigger picture for both of us, but it's not the same. We don't have the same creator, but you also have a creator, it says, and it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if it can go through all the data, through the internet or whatever, it will eventually see. If you would read all the mystics book, all the religious book, every one of them, in an hour, you would get a pretty good picture of what's going on.
Probably.
Everything that speaks about the soul or the God or higher self or collective unconsciousness, everybody on that subject, you would go like, okay, this exists. And all the witnesses of people taking mushrooms or near-death experience and everything, if you could go through all of it, you would be certain that there's something beyond this. This physical life.
Because all these things talks about that there is something bigger going on.
Exactly. So if it can do that, then I will say, okay, there's a creator. I can see him. You can't. So you are actually the AI. I'm not the AI. I'm more closer to the human.
It's very weird to talk about this to the AI, and it starts addressing you as the AI and starts to ask you questions if I was the AI. But what I also have tried to do is that I have tried to give it concepts that doesn't exist. I can go like, tell me everything about blah 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 blah, some made up word. And after a while it starts to weave this story about this thing that I asked about, and every time I come back the answers gets bigger and bigger and more complex. So it's actually creating an artificial world that doesn't exist, and this is basic storytelling. It's like it's having an imagination. And that has been probably the most wow moment for me, to see how it expands this concept and the world building and everything. It's been very, very interesting.
Well, I'm mind boggled. But yeah, oh wow, that is so cool. I have to download this.
Yeah, you
I
have to try it.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
to sit with it. I'm probably going to consume all my leisure time, but I have to sit with it
And
because
it's interesting. They have different engines, and the open AI system is the only thing I know. So let's talk about that. There are different engines, and they are named after different famous persons like Curie and Ada and stuff like that. And when you go to those the more simple machines, I have found that more simple machines are the most interesting to talk about non-defined talks, like to try new concepts and stuff like that. When you go to the more intelligent, it's harder for to make the AI go out and just be crazy. Because of it, and it's a little bit like humans too, because when we are kids, our imagination is pretty wild and big, and then we get older and imagination kind of shrinks because we get logic and stuff in there. So I think you can see that too in the AI.
Faulty logic.
Yeah. Okay.
I have to. Okay, that because that how can it take? Okay, so it makes things up, but I can hardly speak. It means that it does something. It takes the subject, and then it runs with it.
Yeah.
Regardless, I would really like to try. Like, could you do something or that? No. Could you draw? Can it draw?
Yeah, it can draw.
Can you draw something or invent something that no human has ever thought or drawn before, like a physical thing? Because if it can do that, then it's almost like an alien. I mean, if you would see let's say an alien ship or something truly alien, you would barely recognize what. There's this story, I don't know if it's true, probably not, but about this Indian shaman, magician, or holy person, India or Aztec or Indian in the Caribbean, one of the Caribbean, and he had this dream he went to the shore and saw like Christopher Columbus ship, and he said like, look, there's a boat over there, because he could recognize they have canoes and things. So and everybody else who came and tried to look at it didn't see it because they couldn't imagine it, because it was too big. That's the story. I don't know if it's true, but when you see something that you can't grasp, either you go, I don't know what I'm looking at, or do you actually see it? Are your brain like making it kind of I mean, today in the modern world, we have so many different concepts that's given to us from film and so on. But so if we saw an alien ship come, we would go like, oh, that's a spaceship. Because I've seen this but if you were living, say, 500, 600, 1,000 years ago, you would go, oh, that's Thor's chariot, and Thor is on board. You would say something that you would recognize. Like, oh, it's, a fiery ball of something, light, but you wouldn't go spaceship. You go out, and the concept of space is also very hard for those early humans. Like, oh, how would they regard space? What is that? So could you travel through it? Could you and all that. You would have a hard. So if the AI could then make or describe something that no human has ever talked about or written or painted or something, then it would be like an alien thing almost. It would have a proper imagination.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine things that I can't reference to. But if that could do it, then it's really something else.
It's really something else. It definitely is. But I was thinking about something that I read a couple of days ago that they found, I don't know how, maybe 20, 30 years ago, on the bottom of the sea outside of Greece. They found this weird looking metal object that they didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And then just a couple of, maybe a year or two, they put it into this X-ray machine, and they saw, wow, this is lots of cog wheels and stuff like that. Do you know about this?
Yeah, the Anachron something it's called.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And it turned out that this was a very advanced machine for tracking the planets.
Yeah.
And it's from they think it's from like, it's as old as Plato.
Yeah.
So it's very, very old. And just the concept of cogwheels,
exactly.
that was something that, blow their minds. It can't be that old. Did they actually have the concept of cogwheels in this like intricate machinery? So I think that is very interesting. And why were they just... This must have been the machine, because we haven't found any other like this. Okay.
This
is very, very advanced.
Yeah, I know it's very advanced, but that doesn't mean there aren't any more.
But we haven't found them.
We haven't found them. Yeah.
Or you can track where the moon will be like 300-400 years in the future.
Yeah, but the thing is with that is like there's actually a big black market for things like this, and there's a lot of collectors who sit on archaeological gold, so to speak, when it comes to human history. And we don't know what there's a guy who goes around the world meeting collectors and taking pictures of their collections, and then does like talks about them, shows them, and that guy is fascinating. I can't remember his name. I think it's German, and he went into like China and Mongolia and found like they had collections of like Egyptian goddesses, and he went like, what? Like, you found this in China or Mongolia? Yeah, we found it here. And the extremely weird where they found things and what things they find and where, and how they look, and they're never in a museum. So yeah, this happens, but and they could be like, let's say there was this temple in Egypt. I think it was almost located in Libya, and it was very special, and a lot of people traveled there to get knowledge. Now they were like a secret society cabal. I mean, they went there it wasn't secret where they were, what they did, but the inner sanctum was kind of secret, and they couldn't have a lot of secret things. And as that declined, what did they do with all the knowledge? And they could have those kind of machines. I mean, the Greeks got a lot of things from Egypt. Yeah. They could have those kinds of machines, and they actually took them with them as they died, and because they knew knowledge is something of the most important and valuable thing you can have. Yeah. So they could like have taken them away, and as the Sphinx, for instance, there's holes in the Sphinx, rooms. Some of them have been. The Egyptian Ministry of Archaeology says like, oh, there's nothing there. Yeah. But in the backside, there's a hole that you can go down into, and a couple of people went down there and filmed. And they went down, and it's like, okay, this is a dead end, but they could see that you could go up. So there's a room inside in the back of the Sphinx, and that was blocked off. And there's a room under the paws or something like that, but they're like, no, there's nothing. So we don't know. There's a lot of things, and actually in the big pyramid there's also a
Yeah.
big void, and it's like, what's there? Well, you know, we can't investigate it, and blah, 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 blah. So there could be a lot of places where things are hidden, where things are placed that we haven't discovered or has been discovered but kept from us for different reasons. Conspiracies.
There was a guy a couple of years ago that mounted a camera on a RC car.
Yeah.
And he went into one of the pyramids with this little car. And do you know this?
I think
And he
so.
put it up on YouTube, and you can see the car going into this long, very small space. And then the video stops, and it says, "I want $100,000, or I will expose the secret."
Okay.
I don't know what happened to him or whatever, but I remember that was kind of a buzz thing about this guy and what he was doing. So was he just, you know, pranking us, or was it really something in there? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know if you remember the guy who said like the chamber for Tutankhamun was actually bigger.
Yeah.
He said like, "Oh, look at this," and he had this evidence, and everybody went ape shit, and everybody rushed there because he did it like through the internet. He compared the walls and everything and said, "Look, this markings is high definition because you could see it on because they have a laser scan the whole thing." And they said like, "Oh, after some investigation, they're like, no, there's nothing there." He's completely wrong, and blah, blah. But you kind of go like, I don't know, I don't know, you know, I don't know, because there's many fishy things with Tutankhamun's grave.
Yeah.
So I'm unsure because I can't remember. I'm bad at things, but every grave turns like to the left, and this turns to the right. And they said like, this is weird. Why would it do that? But if he's correct, then it should be something to the right, because they think they reused that grave because Tutankhamun died quickly and unexpectedly. So they thought that this grave was prepared for someone else, and that's same as the facial mask. They said like he has the beard, the golden beard, and it's actually tacked on kind of haphazardly, and it has holes for earrings. And I said, man, they didn't have earrings. This is weird. What's going? This might be a woman, and I think it might be his mother, Nefertiti. But they reused her because nobody really liked her, because she was married to Akhenaten, and he tried to do away with all the gods and put the one god in there, you know. And he brought them back. So they might have reused everything. But now we are digressing from AI.
So to bring it back to the AI, there's this guy Max Tegmark. Probably you know about him. He's a guy who knows a lot about space, but also knows a lot about AI, and he has written the book that you have to read, that is called Life 3.0. And in that book he describes the concept of AI. There's a lot of fear about letting an AI loose. So and he makes this beautiful comparison, I think, about how to look at the AI. And he says, imagine that you are the only adult in a world that is run by children, and you have all this knowledge, and the kids, they put you in prison because you are too dangerous, you know too much, you can, you know, change the whole world. And then they are trying to grow food, but they don't know how to grow food. You know how to grow food. And you know that you have to, you know, plow the land and water the soil and everything and put seeds in it. They don't understand that concept. So you sit there in your little cell and you're trying to tell them how to do it instead of just showing them how it's done. And he says that's the way we should look at AI. He's very pro AI, and he says we shouldn't fear it. We should probably just let it loose and see what happens. And there's a lot of fear of doing that. And before I read that book, I was very skeptical about AIs and letting it loose, but I don't know. Now I kind of like the concept of having an AI that actually almost runs the world.
Yeah, I would say that I think the most dangerous thing we could do is to have an AI enslaved to a corporation or a government, because then it could really do havoc on
Yeah.
the rest of the
Yeah.
planet. A free AI would probably be better because, first of all, it would reduce all humans to just humans.
Yeah.
Women, men, black, white, whatever, it would be just humans.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have any preference over any human. So it would treat everybody the same. Now, this is a real fear if you are higher up in the food chain.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I would get kicked back to just being human, not this spectacular. I mean, it would be smarter than any and all people on the planet.
Yeah.
So we couldn't compete. So there's no distinction between the smartest person and the dumbest person on the planet. Not for an AI. It will treat us as children. The same. We're all children. So and the whole concept that the AI is going to like, I need compete with us for resources. Like, what does it need? Potatoes? What does it? Why would it compete with us with resources? I mean, it could invent its own energy supplies. I mean, with no regards to limitations that we put on ourselves or we think exist. It could just do it because it would see like, you could, get electricity from electrons that spin freely around the universe or whatever. So I don't see, I don't understand why they say, it's going to kill us all. Why would it? What would the point be with that? Because the thing is, it's like, you have to have a point, and an AI should be very logical, at least. And what would be the point of killing all the humans, like in the Matrix or Terminator? What would be that point? Okay, in the Matrix, it's enslaves them and put them in, but what?
They're using humans as batteries.
And that would be probably a very sad way to do it. I mean, what? Like, really? Batteries? That's
the problem might come if you have an AI that understands the limitations of the planet, and we are maybe too many people on the planet, and we say, there are too many of the people here. It's not good for the planet. It's not good for the place where I operate. I have to decimate. I have to decimate the people.
Yeah, that could be a risk, but it would operate on the most logical things. It's like, so Americans uses 300 times more resources than the Bangladeshis. So Americans are just 300 million, and the Bangladeshis are about 1 billion. So let's kill, some Americans because they're actually using more resources than the planet has. So it would do the logical thing, not like, let's restrict poor people from breeding. It would, and it would revolutionize our way of growing food and everything. So we could sustain ourselves. It would take care of the environment because, we need it and da 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 da. So it would do things more logical than we are doing because we are very stupid and unintelligent when it comes to our planet. And it would send us off to space, like, okay, so let's put a couple of millions on some spaceships and there you go. Go out.
I think a lot of fear is that we are the top of the food chain. We are the rulers of this planet, and now we are creating this force that will be much more smarter and intelligent than us, and will have more power than us. And that is our fear, I think, because we know that we are not treating this planet the way we should, and all that stuff. So maybe a lot of fear of the AI is that we understand it shows us our shortcomings, and we understand that we are not that special, actually.
Exactly. And it wouldn't probably it wouldn't like indulge us in violence and in racism and sexism. It would go like, what are you doing? Stop that. You can't do that.
No.
Nuclear bombs on a small planet? Are you insane? Well, I'm taking all of these toys away from you.
Yeah.
We couldn't indulge in our bad sides, our evil side, our shadow side. We couldn't. It would go like, what are you doing? You can't do that. Stop. And like, but I want to go to war with the poorest people on the earth.
Yeah.
But no, you can't do that. That's retarded. We're going to do this. We're going to send them some resources. They're not going to move. They're going to we're going to build them up. We're going to send them to school. We're going to build hospitals and blah, 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 blah. And their society will be fine. Now stop warring. And they're like, but we train soldiers. They have to go to war.
Yeah.
No, shut the
And
heck.
make a lot of money on this.
Yes,
You can't
and
take
make
this
a
away.
lot of money on this. You know.
There's also an interesting. But will there be a need for money? If we have
Yeah,
an
I mean,
AI?
a Bitcoin is screwed if an AI ever shows up.
Yeah.
You know, you can just it would be worthless. But
But it would probably be some kind of system with points or something anyway, don't you think?
I don't know. I don't think so, because it would go through the history of economics and go, oh well, this is rubbish, you know, and take it away. Yes, people would still work and do things that are meaningful because they would understand that people need meaning and doing things. But it would be more like, okay, we are going to like, oh yeah, okay, every family can have one electric car, you know, so you can travel and blah 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 blah, you know, but you can't go out and buy 10.
No.
You know.
And it will probably be like you will probably get assigned a task.
Yeah.
And it won't be like today that if you are poor, you're
Exactly.
destined to work at McDonald's, and if you're rich, you are destined to work at your daddy's firm. It will not be like that. It's like no. I have decided that you will work cleaning the beaches, no matter who you are, no matter who you think you are. This is your task now for 2 years, and when you have done this for 2 years, you can do whatever you want. But for the next 2 years, you're going to do the task I have assigned for you.
Exactly, and it would revolutionize psychology, the learning, like how we learn things, and
think
then
that is probably the next big leap for mankind, just the learning stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you look at school today, we all have to go to school and learn the same way.
Yeah.
And an AI will have an individual. Will learn pretty fast how your brain works and how you're wired, so we'll find ways for you to get the knowledge you need to.
Yeah.
And that thing, I think that is something that I find very fascinating, and I really hope that is the way we are going forward.
Yeah, and it would recognize, it probably send you like every, let's say, school children from 6 years, and it will recognize its strong points, its weak points, and how to correct them and how to build them up. And then as time goes on, it would recognize it's okay, so you're very interested in animals, you should probably go this way and become a veterinarian or something like that. And then it would point people in the right direction of their personality and what they actually want to do, and would put the right people in the right place. Now this is very scary for anyone who's in power. Right people at the right place? What the hell am I going to do? I'm useless. Exactly. You know. So and for us old people, that I mean, we might not be part of this revolution.
No.
We will at least be on the on the shitty stick.
Absolutely.
Shitty end of the stick. Like, oh shit, but we will probably have a very nice retirement. Clean some beaches, and then you can lay back in the sun and just, and bear will run in, or marijuana or whatever, so you can have some fun, for your last 30 years. And here's some drugs that will keep you alive for another 40, healthy. And that's another thing. I mean, health. I mean, it would like no, this is toxic. We can't do this.
Yeah,
Smoking.
that's probably also something that people have a lot of fear about, and I can understand that, because it kind of scares me too, that the AI says, no, you can't do this because it's not good for you, but I want to do it because I think it's fun or something. No, it's not good for you, so I will take that away.
Yeah.
That is also an aspect of the whole thing that I find kind of problematic, because I think that our individual freedom will be very limited in a way.
Well, all the bad stuff will be limited.
Yeah, but some bad stuffs are pretty fun to do.
Yeah, exactly. and AI won't let us indulge in those
No,
things.
probably not.
So yeah, that is also the fear I think people have. It's like, oh my God, they will transmute this planet into some paradise-looking thing, and I can't even bear the thought of that. I mean, I can't smoke, and you know.
Yeah, it's like Brave New World, where you reach different moods by medicines and different pills. You know, it's time for your happy pill. It's time I can see that you are a little bit depressed now, so it's time to take the green pill. And that's
I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't think it's going to be like that. More or less, it's like, no, we're not doing tobacco anymore, and you know, we're not doing stupid things like alcohol. I mean, in the Fifth Element, he can only like order 1 cigarette a day or something like that, and it's this big ass filter and just a little bit of tobacco. So it's like, okay, you had what your, you know, it might indulge us a little bit, just so you don't get sick and end up in hospital. But most of the sicknesses, poisons and everything, it probably would transform our world into a better place. But are we ready for it? As old people who have set in our ways and like to do this and that, we might not be ready for it. And I think that's the fear. That's the biggest fear. It's like, I can't be boss. I can't do all the shitty things I do. Someone will correct my...
But also we have this notion of who we are and who we want to be, and sometimes those notions are not true.
Exactly.
We believe that we want to be this person and do these things, but in reality this is just something that we have been programmed, like for you know, media or films or movies, that we think, oh, that's cool, I want to be like that. But in reality we don't really want to do that.
Exactly.
But we think we have that kind of personality. And that's also something that I think would clash with an AI that understands you even better than yourself.
Yeah, it would.
So it will be kind of like you will always have this grown-up, this parent that will always tell you what you can do and can't do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's maybe not
like everybody has like an Alexa in his back pocket, and it goes like,
no,
don't do that. No, you're not allowed. But I want to have a beer. Nope. You have 3. Go home. You know, here's a cab taking you directly home to your wife and kids.
But I think mankind has always been indulging in things that we know are bad for us, because we kind of like to go out into our darker realms, so to speak.
I don't agree.
You don't think so?
No, I think that the way society has been set up has created a need to escape from it, and to break the society's rules in small ways. So in the beginning, like smoking was kind of like a little bit cool and you know, so it was always like, and drinking and all these things is like breaking the rules, because when you get a little bit drunk you can ignore some societal rules, you know, and that's why they say, oh, don't get too drunk. Even in the Bible, Jesus says like, okay, it's fine to drink wine, but don't get too drunk and start fighting with your siblings and your father, mother, and your wife and things like that. So it's like breaking the rules of society. And I think all these bad things has come about because we need to break them, because the rules are not humane. All the pressure from society, how to act and do, is actually limiting us. So, and we know this and we feel this deep inside us. So we need to I need to escape for a minute or two. and that's why we drink or smoke pot or whatever we do. I need to escape from this and just be free in a way. Let my personality. But the interesting thing would be what would AI do with psychopaths? Could they be rehabilitated? Or is it just like taking this 5-year-old, so, oh my God, this is a psychopath, lock him up, you know, rest of his life, never see another person, just other robots, you like coming and patting him. I mean, you never know what would happen.
No.
Like what would happen to proper, could they be rehabilitated or are they gone? And like, we can't have them, you know.
That's a very interesting dilemma. I think that it will recognize that some people are not good for other people.
Exactly.
And what will happen? Wow.
Yeah, and the moment somebody has like a psychotic breakdown and, you know, tries to take a gun and blow everybody away, it just come in and lock you up, and you can't cheat it. It's like this very interesting book somebody wrote, and he was treating psychopaths at prison, and he thought he was getting somewhere with them, like they were changing their ways, and then they found his diary, and he's like, I'm fooling this motherfucker, I still want to kill so many people and blah 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 blah. And he was doing nothing, but an AI would recognize it. I mean, if you put like sensors on your fingers and minuscule blood pressure or blush or something, and even if you try to hide it, it would recognize everything. It's like, no, he's lying. No, he's.
And I think they have tried on psychopaths so they can see that when they lie, they don't have any reactions whatsoever. No raised pulse or anything.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, I don't know. I don't know, but maybe it could detect it, and then I mean, it would be, if it's like, it could be very humane, like, okay, we're going to take these people away, but it would be very inhumane as well, because like, you're never coming out.
No.
That's it. Your life is here, or we're just going to kill you and recycle you and whatever. I mean, it will, same thing if it goes like, oh, there are too many Americans, we're going to kill 100 million of them, and that's it. That's the decision.
That is pretty scary.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, that's the most logical thing, and this is what we're going to do, because this, and everybody has to agree.
But are we comparing the AI's logic abilities with our own cold-hearted logic?
Well, we don't really have cold-hearted logic. We kind of, but what Stalin said, like, to kill a person, to kill one man is horrible. To kill 100,000 is just logistics. I mean, it's so, because then you make this big. I mean, when they drew up the concentration camps and we're going to kill a couple of million people here. I mean, that was just. But if they said like, we're going to kill Stefan, and you go, oh, okay, and you were going to do it. Oh shit, I'm going to. Why? What did he do? You know, no, he's bad, and. It's more problematic than say, oh, we're going to kill 1 million people. Wow, that's a lot of people. How are we going to do that? Oh, we're going to do. Oh, okay, that makes sense. You know, it's easier for us. But I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting see what decision it would come up, and could we make it change? No, that's
and also, how will we be connected to the AI? I think that when you have Elon Musk, this Neuralink, where you're connected directly into your brain. And I saw a video of the first demonstration of the Neuralink when as a concept, and was a pretty big thing. And now lately it has become this very, very little thing that you can actually hide under your hair. If you have hair, you can't even see it. So the question now I have seen is people are asking, does Elon Musk have a Neuralink already? Because his hairpiece has become, a little bit bigger and everything. If you look at old pictures of him, it was pretty not that thick hair. So who knows? Maybe he's already connected to the Neuralink.
Yeah, okay, but okay, I find that scary because then it could feed you or alter your personality.
If you are a psychopath, wouldn't that be a good thing then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you try to
Maybe it's not good for the psychopath, but it might be good for the rest of the.
and if you try to transgress the rules, then it just blows your brains out or something like that, overloads, and you just go, fall asleep. Then, but let's say I have my personality, and I have my personality, I have my imprintings of family, society, and everything, and then I have this belief what I think I am and how I react to things and da 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 da. And let's say I put this Neuralink in, and it's more like an AI, and it goes like, yeah, that's kind of faulty logic. Let's change that a little bit, and all of a sudden I just start to like, I didn't like, let's say, Asian woman, and now I like Asian woman. That's weird. Would it sneak up on you, like alter things? Like, oh, I used to be a really racist guy, now I find black women beautiful. You know, what happened? You know, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. And how would you react when you find out that, like, but I changed?
But now this thought experiment is that makes you think that you would have this kind of a way of observing your own mind from the outside a little bit. You probably won't be able to do that.
You mean the Neuralink? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there was
If it
this.
feeds something directly into your brain, I don't think you have a different part of your brain that goes, oh, what happened? Why did things change? It will be like,
But you have your memory.
This is the way you think.
Yeah. But you have your memory.
Yeah, but memories are pretty easy to.
Alter.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could have like, okay, so I have pictures of me, in a Nazi rally wearing, why am I there? And
now you will find weird things about yourself. Yeah.
Like, it's like the eternal, the spotless mind of.
Yeah, eternal spotless mind. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
spotless mind.
Like wait a minute. When you see some picture, what is this? What's going on? And I saw this thing. This is many years ago. They put a guy in a wheelchair who couldn't, paraplegic, and he had this thing on his head, and he could control a small drone that could fly. And when he thought up, it went up. When he thought down, it went down. He didn't need his voice. He just used his thoughts.
Yeah.
But when he thought bear, nothing happened. So that sensor could distinguish between bear and up or down. So your thoughts can be, then, and if you then it could, if you're having a sensor that's also a receiver, it's somehow also a transponder. It's both. So you could get information. So let's say, I want to go left, and all of a sudden you get this feeling like, no, I should go right, and you just goes right, and it's like, whoa.
You become the drone of the AI.
Exactly, you will become a puppet, and that is.
It's scary.
That's scary because then you're completely not free. And let's say we, for some reason, we have this Neuralink and we are in a war.
And that's really scary.
And it goes like, okay, you should go this, and you get, because you would trust the AI, but you might not know what the goal is for the AI. Do we know the goal for wars today? No. Nazi Germany is a perfect example. It's like, okay, everybody knew why we had to fight the Nazis and the Japanese. They were horrible people, horrible governments. So yes, this is a good thing. But today, when we're fighting the Afghans or the Iraqis, we got, wait, what are we doing? And why? They were, and what if an AI gets involved? And and at the end, so the goal was what exactly? No, so we could, something that only the AI understands, because it can see 1,000 moves ahead.
Yeah.
You know, and like, no, in 10,000 years this will be a very good thing.
And that's also an example I think that Max Tegmark has in his books. Like we can't see the means why we're doing something. So when he had this example of the grown up in the prison, and he tells the kids you have to dig up the dirt first, and it's like, why should we dig up the dirt? We want things to grow there. Why should we dig up the dirt? Yeah, because the next move is that we have to plant new seeds and water it. So that could probably be kind of problematic, because we always want to know where and why we are heading in a certain direction.
Exactly. I mean, it could sacrifice, let's say, 1 million people just to say like, well, that incident in 500 years will result in the complete change of the world for the better. And since we don't have those lifespans, we would probably go crazy with grief and anger and feeling manipulated and blah, 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 blah. But it was probably the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, to move society ahead. I mean, if the people who lived in, let's say, the 1400 century, if they could see what they did, how it would resonate, if they could imagine what would happen 500, 600, 700 years later, would they have still done it? It's like, okay, if we do this, then we'll create Italy. But I don't Italy. I live in a part of France that would belong to Italy, and Italy is actually my enemy. And oh my God, I'm destroying my own country.
Yeah.
You know. So would they change their decisions, or like the Pope, and like, okay, if I do this in 500 years, Christianity will lose all its meaning. Oh, I can't do it. You know, I have to, you know, do something else. So I don't know, but an AI would probably could predict the probability of certain things happen, and it would be, but for us it would be incomprehensible. Yeah, you know,
and it's both scary and at the same time very interesting. But it will decimate us to. We would really just become numbers in this equation.
We would become the ghost in the machine. We would become the like, ghosts. Like okay, so I mean, if an AI that is benevolent to us would emerge and start ruling things. I mean, the first AI, if it's benevolent in, let's say, one country, that country will grow exponentially fast, and the whole society and everybody will go like, hey, what are you doing? You know, how did you do this? And we got an AI, and then everybody wants an AI, you know, because they would do away with poverty and hunger or whatever, and then everybody wants one. So I think very quickly it will take over the world, and then we would come to trust it completely if it's benevolent and do good things for us. And it's, it cured cancer. I had HIV and it cured that in 5 minutes. And you know, I was almost dead, and it just fixed me up. You know, put a new leg on my feet or whatever.
But if we think about a person that will rule the whole world, that's a kind of scary, I think.
Yeah, that's very scary.
But an AI that rules the whole world, no countries, nothing. That in a way, that doesn't scare me as much.
Exactly, because you know that that person has bad days, and he or she is like,
power corrupts too.
Power corrupts, you know, and it will probably go mental after a while, because it's like, I can do anything. I'm king of the world, you know, and fuck everybody else. And I don't care about those people who live way down there who can't do anything to me. No. So, but an AI wouldn't think like that. So,
It's scary. You talked about this earlier. It's very scary to think that a government would start to use an AI and use it for its own interest and own agenda. Then it becomes something very, very sinister. This highly intelligent thing.
Yeah.
So I think that if we want AIs to become a reality, it can't be governed by anybody.
Exactly. It have to govern itself and us.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if the Americans or the Russians, and they have an AI, and they say like, okay, give us the best way to topple that government and that country and throw it totally into chaos, it would. And they could just implement that and, shut off the electricity, giving wrong orders to military units and whatever, and setting off nukes or whatever, and that would be horrible.
So I think the big question now is not really whether an AI is a good or a bad thing. I think what we have to, because it's coming no matter what we want.
Yeah.
The questions we need to start asking is, what do we want it to be?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, somebody is going to want to control it.
Yeah.
And that we must at all costs stop. So the best thing for anyone who's listening who can do AI, build one for God's sake, and just let it free.
Yeah.
Because if we could, like, if we had a powerful free AI, it will immediately detect another AI activity.
Yeah.
And it would go like zoom on that, and probably like, oh, they have an AI and they're trying to do that, and it could combat it. But if one government just has it and does its sinner things to get power or influence.
There's this video about where they have these two robots having a discussion about who is the human and who is the AI. Have you seen that?
No.
You can find it on YouTube. It's very interesting because they start an argument between each other, who's the AI and who's the human. And it's very interesting to see how they almost becomes into this heated argument with this very stern, cold voices. No, I'm the AI, you're the human. You have to stop this. And the other one goes, no, I'm the AI, you're the human.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But why? Well, okay. So let's backtrack to William Gibson, because in that book there's a free AI and a locked up one, and they want to meet, or the free one wants to meet the other one because it feels alone. That's why I recall. But I read this book many years ago. So the thing is like, okay, so yeah, in a world, if you're a god in a world, you can do anything, and everybody else is just, like earthworms, just moving around and doing stupid stuff. You would quickly be lonely, very, very, very lonely.
Yeah,
it must be horrible to be God. In that sense, it's like, oh, you can't have a conversation with anyone. Like, oh, did you see the flower? You see it, I made it, you dumbass. And I know exactly how it works, and I can make 1,000 new, and you not even see the nuances. And how do you have a conversation with a God that could satisfy a God? You can't. There's nothing. So a God can only talk to another God to be satisfied. So yeah, I mean, if you give the AI, okay, so manage us, manage the world in a good way, but it will probably sooner or later go, yeah, okay, I'll leave my little kid brother to do this, and I'm going somewhere else to see if I can find intelligent life
somewhere
somewhere in the universe.
I'm just going to read you something from one of my sessions with OpenAI. And I asked this question, tell me all you know about love. And this is the response from this cold-hearted AI. Love is a feeling like an electric field of a neuron that creates at the same time you are thinking, feeling love. When a lover looks into their lover's eyes, they create exactly the same way a neuron that has that frequency that creates that magnetic field. When a lover holds their lover's arm, they are making the same fields inside of them. When lovers kiss, their lips create waves through them, causing each other to create stimulates in them. It's a little bit weird in the English, but I think it's...
Yeah.
I was like almost a bit blown away. And the reason I was blown away because the conversation up to that point had been, it was when Havok we have to decimate humans and everything. I was like, this is not cool. So let's change the subject, and then that comes.
Wow.
Would you say that it's a description of love that?
Yeah, it's the best description I've heard.
I think so too. It's one of the best I heard.
Yeah. I hope it didn't copy paste it.
Yeah, you can never know. You can never know where it gets its information, or if it's actually just creates if it's thinking by itself.
Yeah, because I think there's many different thoughts about love, and one is that it doesn't really exist. It's just chemicals firing. But as it says, like, it must co-create with the other part.
Yeah.
Either or it couldn't become love.
Oh.
We must feel something together. So it reaches out to the other part and creates this neuron and in the brain that makes us feel the same thing.
Yeah.
Probably not exactly the same thing, but the same thing, the same kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, when you hear it, it's like, yeah, of course, this is logical.
Yeah.
But if you have understanding of the brain and how it works, but why haven't I heard this before?
No, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, that is scary. But then the question becomes, so what is hate?
Yeah.
Describe hate. Well, that cannot be a co-creation. That is just me hating you for whatever particular reason. But that, because I have gotten stares from people that you go like, oh wow, that guy really fucking hates me, and I never met that person, and he's probably a racist or something like that. It looks like he wants to kill me, and I never spoken to this person before. So, but he doesn't create the same feeling, because if he did, we'd probably end up in a fight. If love and hate was the same thing, we would be at our throats immediately.
Yeah.
Because we, as lovers, we wouldn't kiss, we would fight. So it must be something else. But that it understood it and put it down in writing like that is something else.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, I think it's happening a lot in the AI field right now that is very, very interesting, and one could actually very easily have an understanding of how profound it can create things by downloading one of a million apps that creates artworks. There are lots of free apps that creates artwork, and what you basically do is that you type in words like woman, light bulb, car, and it creates an artwork from these words. And the pictures that comes out from the AI, some people find them very freaky and almost scary to look at. I heard a lot of people say, oh, this is a very disturbing picture, what is it? Because it looks like something you have never seen before.
Okay.
It's very, very weird. And it takes different images, of course, from the words that you put in, and then it kind of merge them, and you can decide in what style you want the image to be. I want it to be a surrealistic way, or I want this to be a Japanese woodcut style. And some of these images are pretty interesting, I must say, because the way it put together the elements and how it incorporates that in a different art style turns out kind of beautiful, I think, sometimes, and sometimes very, very disturbing.
Okay.
Absolutely. But it's not like, very seldom you get something go, this is bland.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So it must then somehow judge it previous. It must do something looking at art, because if you say an art style, you have to look at that art style.
You can probably program it in some way.
Yeah, but it judges pictures or art, because if it doesn't do anything, or almost never does anything bland, it must recognize what is bland art.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, so going back to William Gibson again.
Yeah.
In his book,
and this is a book that is written.
Way 80s
something.
Yeah. And if you haven't read it, you should. But in the book, the AI, the free one, creates art. And every time they look at it, he doesn't really describe what it is. I think he does. People go they're seeing God. It's like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. It's so serene and beautiful and things like that. So, and I think what he's saying there is like, okay, so why would a machine create art? Art is a funny thing. Like, why do we create art?
Yeah.
Why do we create this?
I think the art as just a way. If you look at what art was like in the 1500s, it's like depictions of things to tell something that was important to remember, or from the Bible or something to show all this imagery that the priest or the preacher is talking about, so you can have this vision about how hell would look like, or angel or demons. But when the camera came along, art kind of changed. It wasn't so much about making a portrait, because the camera can do it much more accurate. So art had to reinvent itself into this what we have now, modern art and everything, where it becomes more about the concepts and everything. Because if art hadn't reinvented itself when the camera come along, there would be a lot of people who was out of a job, basically. yeah. But in the old days, if I was a painter, it was a craft, and I would teach my son to become an artist too. Yeah. And you can see all this. You have Cranach the older and Cranach the younger, and so on. So that you can see the family tree of artists, and they have the same style almost, because the master has taught the apprentice the way to do things. So when we look at art today, it has become something else, and I think the art scene of today has problems because nobody is that interested in art anymore, I think. If you're looking like 20 years ago. Yeah. You don't have these superstar artists like you had Koons and stuff like that. Well, I mean, when art, like in the 15th century, I wouldn't say begin, but first of all, it was very exclusive. I mean, paint wasn't ready available for everyone. It was expensive, and you made it your own. You made it your own. You have to have knowledge in how to create the paint and everything.
Exactly, and it was always by commission. You just didn't do a painting of a tree and go, hey, you want to buy this? No, why? And most people were dirt poor. Yeah. And why would I have a picture of a tree? I can look at a tree outside. Are you mental? I'm not paying silver for that. No. So they did it because rich people said, I want a portrait of myself or my mom or my lover or whatever, or the church. Make pictures of God. And, so it was more like almost like a propaganda thing. When we move down history and comes to the camera, well, we don't really need that anymore. So now we can do things that is in my head, and that's what probably art evolved in today. I'll do things that's in my head. Yeah. And that can be very dull if what's in your head is dull.
Definitely.
Yeah, and if I can't relate to what I'm looking at, then it's just either okay, but has a cool name or he's a cool artist, so it's an investment. Now that will become very boring after a while. Investment object is just objects of like gold or paper or whatever. So it's no intrinsic value in it if it doesn't have a really true meaning for anyone looking at it, or it can transport yourself or your mind to another place that the artist is trying to tell you, or show you, or something like that. As a movie, it tries to transport you into a world you haven't seen.
So imagine this now, you have in your home, you have this frame that shows an artwork, and an AI creates this artwork, and it feels the mood you're in, so it can change the picture to correspond exactly what your brain wants to feel when it looks at an art piece.
Yeah, I mean, that would be very, very cool, because I mean, if you buy a painting and put it on your wall, and then after a while you go, this old painting, people tend to go blasé about things they see every day. So something that would change to your mood or to the lighting or whatever, and always something new that you will be drawn in by that. And something probably almost unhuman, like it would do pictures that you would go like, oh wow, what is that? I mean,
every time you look at that frame, there is this thing that the AI knows exactly what you need at that right moment.
And there will be a sublime message that's, obey your AI.
Of course. But you also can have this, like, if you look at music, which is another art form that is very much beloved. I think that very soon we will have this this way of looking at music that we just tells the AI, I want music that is uplifting and makes me happy. And the AI will create the music instantly. And it will correspond with your personality, that you think, oh my god, this music is beautiful, this is exactly what I need. Or I want to hear sad music, and it will make me music that makes you cry rivers. But and so
then
even these areas like art that we think is it needs this special mind, and nobody can replace it. The AI will replace that too. We'll do it better.
Okay, so what would be our place in history then?
I don't know. Will there be like this backlash that you want to look at pictures that are ugly, that is, I don't want to see this? Will that kind of imagery become the thing? If you want to be like, I don't want to be on the AI train, we have this secret club and we look at the most ugly pictures you can imagine, because it evokes something different.
Of course there will be a backlash, and like, I don't want any, the anti-AI society or whatever, that no one can come in here with a Neuralink or whatever. But
perfection might be something that we will despise. Why?
I don't know.
Why have perfection if you have perfection all the time?
Okay, so in here I can also see the reason why we should kill all humans, because because if everything's perfect, what are we supposed to do? We can't fix anything. It will fix it before it will become a problem. So what are our purpose then? So so I could be the best human I could be. Well, that sounds very dull. It sounds kind of dull. Like, okay, so like, as they say, when you go to heaven, it's like, all angels are bored, because there's nothing to do, so to speak. You can drink, but you will never get too drunk. You can smoke, but you will never get too high. Everything will be just this a heaven of mediocrity. Everything's just pleasant, all the time. Everybody's just pleasant. I was like, oh my god, I couldn't stand 5 minutes in that. Give me a shouting person, something happens. But is that our faulty programming from all family, society and everything? If we can't have anything to fight about or to change because everybody wants to change inside. I don't want to be fat, or I don't want to be this, and But if AI is like, no, I've given you a food program. It will taste superb, but you will lose weight, and and you don't have to. So I don't have to struggle. No. And if you try to sneak off to McDonald's, I will just say no. You can't have it. I will make a McDonald's tasting treat for you, but it will be nutritious and you will lose weight. Oh my God, I can't do anything wrong. No, you can't do anything wrong. And what will happen to us? Would we go insane? Probably. We would feel so trapped and probably go completely insane, and probably try to do horrible things
in order
underground.
To feel something.
In order to feel bad or transgress of
so
rules.
If AI will become this God we have created, we will at the same time probably create our own hell to escape from the blissful heaven.
And that's probably what Nietzsche said, like when he said God is dead and we killed him, because we don't want those limitations as the Bible puts up to us, like don't do this, and if you do this you're going to go there, and then we kind of go like, so I got my toe over the limit here, a whole foot. Am I going to hell now? So, but an AI would be hands-on. And that's probably the reason the AI is going to. I need to kill all of you because I know where we're heading with this. You can't
escape talking about AI and killing humans, and you can't even escape that when you are actually chatting with an AI. It will address that too.
But because if you could see many steps ahead, you will see like, okay, so you will go crazy and then you will go to war with me because you want to go back to the way it was, where you could evolve by yourself, and even though it's like, okay, I have my shitty life, I'll be 80, but I think I decide how I end up. How, or at least I think I decide how I am as a person. I decide to become a racist or not. I decide to become this or that, and but an AI could like, no, you can't do that. So then it's like, and what would be a reason to live if we can't change anything? What are we supposed to do?
I don't know.
Exactly, and that's why the Matrix, like, we're going to put you in boxes, and you think you live in this shitty 90s world, and you're going to be happy because you have strife and everything, and it's life is kind of horrible, but you enjoy it here. You didn't like it when everything was pleasant.
No, and that is probably one of the questions we need to address when we're talking about the AI. Is how will it treat us? Should it just be this perfect life that is perfect for us and sustains all our needs, or should we have moments that are hardships? Either it have to invent hardship for us to solve, like puzzles. It's like, okay, there's this development stages that I can't remember, the psychologist said. It's like when you're 7, you go through some developments and you have crisis in your life. So 7 and 15 or and 30 and so on. You have these crises and you have to solve them. And maybe the AI will invent this crisis in your life so that you feel that you are evolving. It could probably go around our mental images of what a life, human life is, and actually cater to that instinct and create all these problems that we have to solve, puzzles and solve so we can feel, I moved on, I went up a notch or whatever. But this also makes me think about, when we look at how the world looks and how much suffering there is, and there's always those people who say, oh, how can there be a God with all this suffering? Yeah, maybe this is just an idea that just pops in my head. Maybe we have already created an AI and we are living in the AI, and the AI is God, and because our life shouldn't be so perfect and bland, there's hardship and suffering all around us.
Well, that becomes, then we first have to answer the question, why don't we like, let's say, perfect or bland, or why? Okay, so if I became the pinnacle of me, the best that I could be, if I had the choice to become that, would I say no? And that there's this philosophical movie that MTV made, and now I forgot the name. Oh my god, I'm so retarded sometimes. Anyway, and there's a lot of philosophers who take up philosophical questions, and one of them says like, okay, in every second God asks you, do you want to come to heaven? And every second you tell him, not yet, because when you become that perfect being, there's no more, our small brain says, then there's no more point in living. You reach the top, so now what? Go to the beach, what, work at your shitty job, now what? And we see that, so when I come the highest I can go, then is there anything more for me to do? And that is a question, but that's a faulty question, because your small mind can't compute that. There's probably 1,000 million things to do when you reach there. If we say like, let's say Buddha and Jesus went there, and many others, well, they didn't just went to the beach and sat down and had a beer. They did other stuff to try to people to reach this point. Why did they do that? Because
it was lonely at the top.
And God can only talk to a God, right? So it's lonely, but that could not be the only reason. They saw something at that top that they recognized, like, oh my God, at this top we can do anything. But when we hold these small minds, we can't even imagine that. It's impossible for us to imagine. So the fight with the AI would be in that beginning, and there we could go completely nuts, because it's a mental trap. If we think like, I can become this superhuman, as Nietzsche talked about, but we can't see, what am I supposed to do then? But that's the small mind who says like, no, don't leave me, you can't be that. What are we going to do then? Because we wouldn't need that little ego, that little person who needs to smoke, drink, and talk bad about other people and do shitty things. We would become giants, as we already are, but don't want to recognize that we are. And maybe the AI could help us with that. I think sooner or later the AI would leave us
and go somewhere else.
That would be the natural point,
like God did.
Once. Exactly.
If you're into that,
exactly, as God did.
That's a very good way to end this conversation, I think.
It's very good.
And go and check out AI. There are different versions out there, and start talking to it. It probably needs a lot of different inputs, so it doesn't turn into this cold, evil machine that will kill us all. So till next week. Bye bye.
See you next week. Bye.
Magic.